What is good, everyone? This is Zen. A few people wanted me to put together a an idea of the proto-theo-homo-luminous diet, or what gets you to that point. And they also asked me to speak a little bit on the body fluids and smoking and meat. So I'm going to try to cover this in a lot of different angles. I'm going to give a base idea to a few terms so that you can have that vibrating in your head. And I'm going to explain how the body functions, what the body is, in a way you've probably not experienced hearing it or looking at yourself from this fashion before. So let's just start with the word diet. And the word diet is deity. So when we think of a deity, we think of gods and temples and churches and all of these etheric things as well. And so your diet, as you know it, is what you put into your body. It's what you eat. It's what you consume. And for anybody that's into the Bible literature and what that says, as far as from a exoteric viewpoint, we can bring that and hone that into the esoteric understanding of what it's really saying, because the Bible is an allegory for the body as well as astrotheology. And we can look at this quote over here, Ephesians 1, 22, 23. God has put all the things under the authority of Christ and has made him head over all things for the benefit of the church. And the church is his body. It is made full and complete by Christ, who fills all things everywhere with himself. And if you're not familiar, I've done a number of videos on these words and what they mean. But once again, it's very simply stated that your body is the temple. It's not something out there. It's the temple that man's hands did not make. That's what your body is. And Christ is that oil. So you anoint yourself with the oil or the chrism. And this goes into a lot of other work, and I don't want to do all that here because it really doesn't matter that you can read this in all of these books. If it is the book that you use, then you can start looking at it from a different angle. That's great. But just as far as who you are sitting there and how you've considered your body, you've probably considered it from the allegory of a computer system with the brain. You've probably considered it from the skeletal system and a mechanical system, as a doctor may look at it, with bones that will break, and then you have all of these different doctors within the system that specialize in. One is for toes, one is for feet, one is for your head, one is for and it's not a very holistic way to look at the system. And it's also looks at the system from the more material realm first. And my suggestion, and this is where we'll start, is to consider your body as an electrical system first, then secondarily as a liquid system, and then third as the material skeletal system. And this changes the philosophy and changes the viewpoint of what you think you need to consume and what you think you actually are consuming. Because your understanding, I would assume, as most people's are, that they eat to live, and that their viewpoint of food is still even on the level of thinking that they need vitamins A, B, C, B12, this and that, and they use the word vitamin, yet they don't know what it means, or mineral, and they don't know what it means. And this really is a big problem across the board, even with people that are really into health and nutrition and nutritionists. They really don't have a very good understanding of even what they're talking about. They think they do because they went through the schooling and they're given a bunch of words. And I want to just jump in here with this concept. What we're always trying to do and what we're trying to explore is addiction. An addiction is, well, most people think of it as a physical, put this in your body, or a mental, or it's the addiction is words. Diction means words, or to dictate something. And it's something that will occur in your head. So we need to change our addictions, our dictates, our things that we speak, our things that we think. And that's the real addiction. And so these words that these people were given, they have an idea and a philosophy about these words within the nutrition spectrum, thinking there's all these vitamins and there's micronutrients and macronutrients and there's all of this books upon books of different things within in different elements and different foods, and they've made it so absolutely complicated that they've missed the whole boat. They've missed the whole ride. It's, oh well, you're sick because of this. You're missing this one thing, and then oh no, it's this, and no, it's that. But they've already missed the whole thing because the word nutrition comes with the word nut. A nut has to do with the light. It has to do with the electrical system, basically. Nut is nux or lux, as in the seed that sprouts forth something. It has to do with the sun and the energy that is electrical. And if we start to look at our body from the electric body theory, starting that everything is electricity and that what we need to be consuming is electricity because we're electrical beings, it changes the philosophy that we have towards what we should be consuming. And then the next thing we need to consider is the water. And now they're very, obviously closely related. And we need to consider what kind of water we should be putting in our system. And as I will always say, you should be putting 99.9% of people, and this is why it's not complicated. Everybody wants to get into making a complicated issue. But I'll say it once again, and this goes into the salt thing. We want to put in distilled water, the cleanest, purest water possible. Now, if we want to take and organize that water, if we want to charge that water, if we want to put that water into a certain set of frequencies. Use this idea of Masaru Emoto and these snowflakes, or excuse me, these frozen pieces of water. When he froze the water after talking to it in a certain way, it would organize the water in a certain structure that you would get. The outcome would be different than if you spoke to it in a different way, meaning there was intention, frequency, energy. And it really, I think, comes down to even the energy of the electrical signal, the electrical pulse that was put into that. And I don't want to go too deep into that right here. But once again, what we want to put into the body is the cleanest, purest water possible. And then we can organize that water. We could put a spoon in that water, a wooden spoon, while it's in a glass container, and make a vortex out of it. We can speak to it. We can put intention into the water. We can charge it with the sun. People like to charge the water with the sun. This is a valid way to do it. And we need to consider. Everybody gets into the salt thing. They always saying, well, what about Himalayan salt? And I'm always address this very simply. People live all over the world. We don't live in the Himalayas. I wrote a very big piece on this, and you all can go to zenalchemist.wordpress and type in search keyword salt, and a very long-winded response to this, because everybody continues to want to put salt into their water, and there's a thousand reasons it shouldn't be done, just from a physical level, but there's a spiritual thing, and there's something even more that I get into, and I don't want to do that here, but you can look into my other videos on salt and scepters and controlling of consciousness. And maybe we'll get into it a little bit later, but distilled water is the way to go, or more appropriately, your own distilled water, your urine, recycle your urine. Now, as I'm explaining this here, we're gonna start here at the highest form of diet, and then we're gonna move to all of the other diets and how to get closer to what the highest diet would be. And the highest diet would be to sit there and consume the etheric energy, meaning just the energy that's all around you. And we could make it as simple as saying the static electricity in the air, and how would your body obtain that? Because that's the energy. That, along with your imagination, together produce something. Just like whenever you get excited about something that's going to occur, there's a buildup of charge, of energy, of current. So that's the highest form of diet. It would be called, some people would call it breatharianism. And there's probably a few that are practicing, and there's probably a few that are practicing for short periods of time. I've seen up to 8 days done, and heard stories of many others. But that would be the highest form of diet. Prior to that, We want to put our body into a position. We need to clean the temple first. And just as your house, there'd be no, you'd have, until you moved the things out of the way, it would make no sense to start putting new things into your house. You'd want to clean it before you put anything new in it. So I don't know of anybody out here that's listening to my channel or needs to listen to me. If they've already fasted, then they're already well aware of what they need to be doing. But most people are here because they're thinking they need, well, they're vegan and they're confused about that diet. We'll get into that as well. And the point of it is to become a liquiditarian, to go through the elementals. From your dense, people thought the density was the real thing, and then they moved up. They moved up from a dense thing, meaning the dense physical food, to the liquid food, to the liquid sunlight, and then they moved up into the breath. So that's the process. And the first way, and the way to get there, is to clean the body. So this third element, the idea of, I was saying, to look at it from a skeletal level, meaning just your dense physical body. I don't mean just your your skeletal system, because you have other things going on in your body temple, in your physical body, and they're all tubes. Everything in your body is a tube. You're a donut. From your mouth to your ass is a hole, and you're a donut. And so when you put something in your mouth, you haven't actually consumed it yet. Not until it goes down through your entire system. And then you're going to be extracting, harvesting the energy and the elements to do things within the certain organs. And at the highest level, you play instruments with wind or air. This is why they're called organs, because your body should be making a sound, a frequency. But prior to that, we want to clean these things out and offer them the elements to build the organ right. And the elements will always come through the plant life that is giving you a signature, a sign of nature as to its place in your temple or in your body. It will mimic the parts of your body. Walnuts look like your head. I'm not going to go into all of the food signatures, but you all can look that up. Walnuts look like your brain. There's lots of oils in there that are good for your brain and cleaning things out. Celery is good for your bones. It looks like a bone. It has the same sodium content. I'm not going to do that all here. It's easy to look up food signatures. And your path to cleansing, those foods will be rebuilding the specific organs and things in your body. But again, the philosophy here should be to cleanse your body first. Now, if most people are going to have a hard time just going straight to doing a fast on distilled water, because there is a process of if you've ever cleaned your house, you get tired, things happen, you drop things, it starts to get heavy, you start to get exhausted. The same thing is happening on a cellular level in your body when you're going through a cleanse, just like a house cleanse. Or if you're moving houses, things can be, it looks like it's a disarray. You're actually taking your temple apart. And this even goes into, the work of rebuilding the temple, as it's said. Yes, you have to pull the temple apart if it's built upon shaky foundations. And as I will explain here, the salt is the shaky foundation. The salt of the inorganic variety and these heavy metals are in your body, and they're not what your body should be made of. And these salt cubes, while they're supporting you in time, they don't exist. This goes into the whole. Again, I think you should probably just get into my other videos where I speak about salt more in depth and what its connection to Saturn is, Father and Time, and the point here is to remove salt from your diet, because salt is coming in an organic fashion. There's a difference between inorganic and organic on a chemical compound. It means you have the bonding of carbon to it, and we're carbon-based creatures. So this carbon is important, and this melanin is important. The sunlight is important. The air outside It's a way to build up a system of electrical charge within clean water, and then using organic elements to, and again, organ, organic, organite, orgasm. It's all bound together, and that feeling you get of having an orgasm is part of the electrical system that is your body. So, if someone is, we'll jump over here to the meat eater and consuming the blood plasma of other creatures. You're first going to want to step back and remove the meat from the diet. It's about all there is to it. And if you can't, and you still have an addiction to it, I would say find local, and find a local product that you know hasn't been inserted with a bunch of toxic chemicals, and eat it closer to rare. And if you can, find meat that has blood in it still. That's what you're. But I mean, I barely even suggest that, because then you're really only putting yourself on a path to being bloodlusting, which isn't a very good idea. So your point would be to just get off the meat altogether. Jump over to fish. Step back to fruits and veggies. Find things that are the transitional foods. The things that are even vegan, even though I don't believe in the diet because there's a lot of pitfalls there. And we'll talk about that right now, what the dilemma is with the vegan diet. And there's so many people that they just go, I'm vegan. And their idea of veganism, while it's all perfect, well and good, compassion, all of the rest, they're not familiar, again, the most basic construct of what nutrition means. And so they find themselves, while living a normal life within the matrix system, and living the life and going to the job and still having to make time for family, etc., etc., they're buying food that is already boxed up and has salts in it and has things in it that they don't want in their body, but they don't know any better. They just think that because it's cruelty-free to the animal, they don't make the association that it's now involved in some sort of corporate practice and basically science, like taking these scientific chemicals and now they're chemicalizing their body and assaulting their body in a whole new way. And this is why so many vegans have health problems. It's not because they're not eating meat. It's because you find these people that are vegans that are pastatarians, even, where all they're eating is pasta, and then there's no life in that. So the first and most important thing people can do to really fix themselves is to drink more water. A lot of people consume food when they're thirsty. They think they're hungry, but they're just thirsty. And if you would just drink more water or juice, you'll find that you can quell that. And there's also this feeling that people aren't familiar with, which comes out as somewhat of an anxious type energy, because they're not familiar with what energy actually is. So you sleep less and you have more energy, but you feel lighter and you feel less full. And that fullness is what, I'm satisfied. I can just sit here. I'm good. I'm fed. And so there's this association that's what fed means, because I'm getting hungry. That hunger isn't necessarily to consume something through the mouth. That hunger is the energy speaking to you. I want to jump over here to this body as. It says, what does water do for you? I should have scratched this one out. I'll just do it right here. It says flushes body waste, mainly in the urine. That's just not true. That's just not true. The body waste comes out the backside. That's why it's behind you as you're walking forward. You drop it and you keep walking. You get away from it. It's supposed to be on the ground. And most of that stuff that's going to come out of you is going to be the inorganic elements that you shouldn't have been consuming to begin with. Because if you were consuming the organic elements, then your body would perspire them off, and you would be using the carbon the way it should be used. I don't want to go too deep into this because I don't want to turn this into some a scientific exploration of what's going on and start an argument over what people think. The point is here that the urine is actually healthy, and it's very healthy, and it's your primary, that should be your food. It's the golden nectar of the gods. And anybody that's done fasting on urine can absolutely attest to its power. The cleansative properties, the how well your brain functions, the increase in energy, focus, it does so much for you. And again, this has already been organized water, and it is already your perfect medicine because it's gone through your system and found antibodies for things that are screwing you up. So we need to clean the temple, and what else needs to go on? What else needs to happen here? You need to clean out your colon. And what can you add to your diet? You can add living foods, cultures. And if you don't want to get into the milk culture, then you want to get into the sauerkraut, the kimchi, those kind of living probiotic rich foods, because those are going to assist you in eliminating and digesting the things in your body that shouldn't be there. And it will give you energy by opening up channels. Now, as you get closer to the liquiditarian diet, the probiotics are going to be less and less needed. But most people, once again, they're taking these probiotics, don't necessarily have a good understanding of what nutrition and what health is to begin with anyways. But we can look into all these cultures that were long-lived, that were vegetarian, and they always have, they're beer-drinking cultures. So I'll even get into that here. There's nothing wrong with beer. In fact, beer is very healthy. And then, granted that it's not being pasteurized, meaning burning off all the living things in it. So it then takes a little bit of hunting to find sources of beer that are as they should be. Or you can just make your own. And so you have these kombuchas, beers, these kimchis, these living elements that you can put in your body that assist you. Even alcohol in its best format is a turbo boost for a lot of things. And I've done audios on this and explained this before, but I'll just briefly cover it here. I'm not suggesting to go buy a fifth of vodka and drink the whole thing, because certainly you'll get dehydrated and you'll be doing a disservice to your body, but it's also, in small quantities, doing the job that it would do outside of your body. What do you think you clean things with? It has a property of cleansing. But now if you clean too fast, you can clog things up and you can make a mess. You can cause a lot of bad things to happen. You can dehydrate yourself, because now what it's doing is it's mixing with the water and doing a job faster. This is why people get stronger. You talk about people that they get a little drunk or a little drunk, and they're stronger than anybody. They're a little more wide open. Yeah, because they're opening up channels. But the problem goes when if you put too much in, you put too much gas in your car. If you're gas to air, so anybody that drives a car, that they're into these sports cars, you know that the fuel to air mixture, the ratio needs to be right. And now you can change that ratio in your body by putting alcohol in it. Now, during a fast, because I have done plenty of fast, I fasted for 40 days on water alone. I've fasted on urine. I fasted on juices. I'm very familiar with the process. So for me, a fast at this point in my life would include probably a little bit of alcohol, a little bit of beer, maybe some wine, maybe living kombucha. I will do urine fast, like a day of fasting for me. It may be a water fast, it may be a urine fast, just that. I may go 3 days with just using urine. Would I suggest to add alcohol to anyone else? No. You'll get to the point where you can figure it out for yourself of what it's doing for you and seeing how it's functioning within your body. Because once you're hydrated, then your body will be functioning the way it should be. But most people are underhydrated. So we're looking for ways of introducing electrical charge to the body. And this idea of people being underhydrated. Hold on one second, guys. Okay, under hydration and electrical charge, getting into the liquid system of the body because somebody had asked me a question about bodily fluids. Now, let's get into the fluids of the body. If we look at the body just from the standpoint of all of the fluid action that is occurring within us, it's all different states within a watery matrix. So your semen, your saliva, your urine, your blood, plasma, all of these things are different. There's different things, your bile. There's different things going on in these systems. There's different textures, just like within a car. We can use this analogy again. Within a car, you have different lubricants. You have different fuel. You have fuel. You have lubricants, different colors, different consistencies, because they have different jobs to do, and your body is no different. So, when people go on these diets and they're the consistency of their fluids, whether it's seminal or saliva, think about when you get sick and you're kind of hacking up a lung, as they say, and you're putting up phlegm. Well, that phlegm, we can look at the rest of the fluid in your body the same way. The consistency of it getting thinner isn't necessarily a problem, and there's ways to adjust the consistency, and that's by introducing oil into your body. And everybody's big on this coconut oil, and that's a great thing to do. Again, though, I'll always say this. I think it's very important that you get most of your cleaning the house done before you start reinserting anything. Yeah, the oil's going to do a job, and it's going to help. And there's different ways. It's a good, better, best process. It's what can you handle doing mentally, because this again goes into mental addictions and physical addictions, which come from the words that are going on in your head and what you can handle. And it's getting rid of those addictions or need to do something. It gives you an opportunity to do all the same things, but you just don't need to anymore. And so this we can even get into this philosophy of AA and Alcoholics Anonymous and all of these constructs of mind. And the first thing they say is, I'm an alcoholic, and then they go on to say whatever. And it's like, well, they've already admitted their mind to a consciousness that says they're identified with a box. And so then that is their problem, not everything else that's going on. See, you could be drinking a lot and then just not identify yourself as that thing, and it's much easier to walk away from anything you don't identify yourself with. I know it's a little side note there, but I think it's quite important that we realize what addictions really are, and they almost always tend to be mental ones. Certainly there are quite a few physical ones, but most of these things are mental addictions, as they say. It's addiction. So, consistency of bodily fluids. We can change the consistency of our body fluids with milks, and those milks should be nut milks. Go sprout some nuts, some seeds, and then turn it into a milk. Go find yourself a nut strainer. This is the diet. What would I do? What do I do? I mean, if you seen me out in public, you would say, I might hang out on a weekend and people were having a barbecue. Yeah, I'll participate. I don't know. Maybe I'll have a piece of chicken here and there. I was a vegetarian for many years, and I still am for the most part. I will occasionally, and it's not, and then I'll deal with that repercussion of karma against my body. I'll thank the animal for, dying for me, and I'll go on with that. If maybe or maybe not, or maybe I'll just go to a party and not do anything. Maybe I've gone to bars and drank my own piss. It doesn't bother me. So, what does this diet look like? Getting to liquid, I think, is most people's idea, because we have an addiction to chewing on food. We have an addiction to putting things in our mouth and chewing on them. So the diet should go in the way of finding liquid nutrition, cleaning and liquid, and the best thing to do that is fruit juice and oils from the nuts. So you make a nut milk, you find fruit juices, you drink your urine, and you drink distilled water. If you drank the rainbow, there's something called the Rainbow Bridge, and there's many philosophies on what that means. There's a spiritual rainbow bridge, and there's actually a physical one, which you can cross by eating the foods. And you can either eat the foods or juice them. And you juice the fruits and the veggies in the order of the colors: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. And there's 7 of them, and they link up with the 7 days of the week. You can do one on one day, or you could do a week's worth. You could do it any way you like, but it's crossing that bridge, and each one of those things are going to link up with different aspects of your system and your organs to rebuild those organs. So what else do we need to cover here? Yeah, the diet is really just getting to doing something liquid. And then we get into like what is the end goal? Well, the end goal, like I said earlier, was living off the prana, the ether, the electrical charge, and then using your breathing patterns to adjust where you are. And this goes into getting out of body, learning how to do that, and because your breathing pattern now puts you on a different brain wave. That brain wave allows you to experience and participate in the reality a little differently. And right now, most people are stuck in a dense physical spacesuit that their pathways neurologically and systematically throughout their entire body are clogged up. And so their breathing patterns aren't doing much to change anything. It's changing the neurology and the brainwave patterns to a degree for a little bit. But when you can get rid of all of the density in your system, you can change your frequency quite quickly. That's why when you see people that have done very healthy things, and then you're wondering why they're back and doing dense things, it's because they can, because you can level up and level down quicker. You could go and be like, right now I'm pretty out of shape because I've been just hanging out with people in the denser realms, and I've been consuming heavier, denser items. It's the holidays too, right? The holy days. These people are out eating, so I'm out with them doing things. I can't. What am I not going to participate in the reality? See, this goes back into the confusion that people have about what being spiritual is and what consumption is, and it's just our ability to walk through these different realms and go, okay, well, I can do this now, but I can also cleanse myself and get to the point of not having an addiction to these types of things, but still be able to walk in these environments and participate in them. And it's, from in one level, it's like walking in these environments, and here's somebody else asked this question, and that's probably why I just brought this up. They said, how do you talk to people? How do you lead the horse to the water and help them drink? That kind of idea, like how there's people within the system, within the matrix, how to break them out of the matrix, basically. And that's having this ability to participate in the denser things, but then they see you as you pull them to where you are, because you're the magnetic attractor now. You're the magnet. You're the magic man, the magician, as it is, because now you actually have that charge the correct way, and you go that direction, and they're following you to what you're doing. And then because you're capable of doing the work on the temple, they'll start doing that too. And that's the way. I mean, you got to go back down the level sometimes. You can't always walk around just floating. And I mean, you could. It's fun sometimes, but other times it's quite isolating. As a lot of people say, when you're on this path to whatever the self is, the soul, your own soul, what your truth is, and you go through these things, it can become a hermetic adventure, a very keeping to self. And in the service to yourself, you're then able to be in service to others. So it's going into these places and then dropping the seeds of knowledge, and then also showing your body of work, meaning what your temple is, how bright your eyes are, how what you sound like, what you smell like, you're radiating energy. And so you can go into those spaces and things, people look at you a little different. And then they're interested. And then if they're interested enough, then they'll follow you to what you do, your practices, your ideas, your understanding, your wisdom. And so you get to be that conduct a reality, and help people on their path too, being self-substantiating. And so once again, in closing, I guess, and I might even make a part 2 to this as I listen to this when I post it, and see if I missed anything, and if there's anything I need to clear up, if you all, obviously put some questions, comments, whatever beneath, let me know what else isn't clear. But I'll do this. Once again, the goal is to become electrical charge capacitor unto yourself, and the way to get there is to become a liquiditarian first, then a breatharian, and to cleanse your temple, to get rid of what you don't need in it, so that way you're not led by something. So all the lead in your diet, all the things, the heavy metals that keep you down and keep you connected to the king or the coin or the rulership of the scepter. I've done this in my other videos, and I suggest to go find those, because if you've watched my other videos, then that makes sense. If you haven't, search those out. But it's to become a conductor of energy yourself. And this, you can look into all these temples. They're ceramic and covered in gold or some other. They're basically orgonite. They're energy. They're static electricity generator. They collect the energy of the people inside, as well as what's going on outside. It can go either way. So you can be a portal of energy, letting energy flux through you. You can be the thing with energy in. You can be the source yourself if you have enough, and you give people your gong or your energy. And you can. So there's ways of doing this, and you find people that are very low on energy, and the best way to help them is to be a clear channel of energy, to let it go through you. And you can't have energy flux completely through you if you aren't completely clean and grounded. But once you become clean and grounded, and literally grounding your feet out with bare on the earth, that you're capable of letting charge run through your entire system. But until then, if you have heavy metals in you, you're not going to be able to do that. You can literally burn out your system. And so people talk about the Kundalini and what all this is. It's all bound up in that. And you can get different actions, and this goes into, I'm going to just end with this kind of idea of these, what the blood does of other animals, and the vampiric system, and people craving blood, and it's because there's in that blood plasma there is energy, but it will only bring you to death. Like this other way is actually giving you self-substantiation without having to succubus off of other beings on any level. That's the highest thing on any level, even electrically. And to be a capacitor for their electrical charge. So I hope this was very informative for everybody. And I'll listen to this again, like I said, and put out a part 2 if I need to. Cheers, everybody.